All right, snow, my friends, is spreading into areas where we've not seen much snow this year, including parts of West Virginia, Virginia, maybe even North Carolina. We're going to talk about that today. Plus, the pattern is going to start to shift up where we start to see some more heavy snow out west and even into places like Utah, where there hasn't been a lot of snow this year. Things start to change, and I do believe there's some more snow on the way, and that snow could also get heavy into parts of British Columbia, Alberta, and there are signs, okay, that this snow could really increase across this part of North America. And look how we're starting to build a glacier almost across parts of Canada and the northern U.S. Okay, we're going to talk about that today. Let's dig into what where the advisories are right now. This is not something we've seen this year yet. New winter weather advisories here into northern North Carolina, also Virginia. It does include Richmond. It does not include the Tidewater region down towards Hampton Roads and Norfolk over to Virginia Beach. This snow is going to be back to your west. However, on the southern side of this, even into parts of Richmond, there could be some mixing with some freezing rain. But winter weather advisories here for a couple of inches of snow. Lynchburg, the Hill City, back to Roanoke, Blacksburg, all the way down. Not quite to the Tri-Cities, but once you get across the central parts of the mountains here on the east side of the mountains, that's where we're going to see the most snow. I would say generally along and east of I-77. There could be a little bit slipping to the west, but then up into southern West Virginia. Some of this will sneak a little further to the north. I'll show you on the models in just a second, but the heaviest snow, again, expected. I think you got to watch this region right in here for some bands that try to develop as we head into this afternoon. Something you don't see every day. My friends in Winston-Salem, over to Greensboro, over not quite to Raleigh, but Durham. There could be some wintry precip. The fact that we're seeing some flakes, always interesting in the Tar Heel State. Not so much so, really not a huge deal into the mountains here, but we do have winter weather advisories extending to Asheville all the way down to the South Carolina line. And once you hop up on the Cumberland Plateau, up here towards Cookeville, over to Crossville, some snow possible here in central Tennessee. That's east of Nashville, west of Knoxville. If you're heading west on I-40, you go up in some elevation there. Let's go west. There are some winter weather advisories for the snow that's falling right now from Tulsa to Oklahoma City back to Amarillo. This snow is moving east. The snow that's falling here, this system is what's going to be pushing that snow further to the east into the Virginia, North Carolina region into West Virginia. Some lake effects still going too. We've got some some winter weather advisories here, even winter storm warnings going up here near Sault Ste. Marie as we get that wind fetch off of Lake Superior. But let's go north and west. Look at this. Interesting to see the big winter storm watches coming out across western Montana, Idaho, up into this region. Some areas could see 2 to 3 feet of snow over the coming week or so. Really interesting to see this too, with some big snow falling, not just here, but also further to the south along the Idaho-Montana border. We're talking about get up near the national park, some big snow falling here, and where we've not seen much snow this year, how about that? Winter storm watches out for the Wasatch. East of Salt Lake City, some heavy snow expected into the mountains. Some areas could see a foot or so. And then once you get into Colorado, snow expected here. You're going to have to get up pretty high before you get the snow here if you're headed east on I-40, right? So the valley here, not looking too bad. From Grand Junction up to Glenwood Springs, not bad. But the mountains around it and the mountainous regions here, we're going to start to get into that snow. And then, of course, if you're on I-70, eventually you get up in elevation up near Vail. And as you cross the Continental Divide, you're going to run into that snow, and it could be heavy at times. And that stretches north and south, again, all along these regions that typically see the snow, right? So winter storm watches out across this region. And then, there's going to be a lot of snow, I think, after this. Let's talk about it. Let's show you where it's headed. This is the European showing that snow moving across the southern U.S. Into Texas today. We're talking about the panhandle of Texas into Oklahoma. That settles down as we head into this afternoon. And then not much happening once we get into the afternoon. Again, there could be a little bit of snow. The European doesn't show it much here into parts of the Cumberland Plateau, but some rain showers across the south. A little bit of light snow moving through parts of the prairies here. This is a very weak system that's going to bring some light snow. Cities like Winnipeg, east into Ontario, and then heavier snow, though, starting to pick up across the west. We're talking about into Idaho, Montana. That snow could get really heavy, and we're seeing that snow pick up here across Virginia. We'll talk about that more in just a second. As this system drops east, that snow could start to get heavy. A cold Arctic air mass dropping south, so a little bit of some upslope flow going here, so that snow could be heavy. And then more Pacific moisture intersecting with that. So now we've got some good convergence of the air here, and that means some good uplift, and I think that means you're going to precipitate. It's going to snow. And it's going to snow pretty hard, too. That drops into the Rockies again and further south into the Wasatch, and we're watching this Alberta Clipper. We're going to give them names this year. We're going to call it by name. This one's coming from Alberta. It's dropping south. It's not a Saskatchewan Scream or a Manitoba Mauler. This is an Alberta Clipper. It's going to drop that snow from South Dakota into Iowa, southern parts of Minnesota. And, it starts the weekend as it moves towards Chicago. I still think there's a chance for some snow here over the weekend into northern Illinois, northern Indiana, but it kind of falls apart as it drops to the south. So maybe not the classic Clipper that drops all the way in and then curves either north and east. It really just kind of dies on the vine, if you will. Cold high pressure building into the Great Lakes. We're bringing a lot of moisture into the Pacific Northwest. Another Clipper system dropping south. I'd call this an Alberta Clipper as well. It's going to be a little bit further to the north, putting that snow into Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, southern parts of Ontario. We're going to get some snow here. And it's going to be cold, too, with temperatures well below freezing. And that has a chance of putting a little bit of snow into the northeast. It's a Clipper system, not a huge storm. And behind it, another system bringing more snow. We're on repeat with this. Another one after that. And maybe a change toward the middle of the month. This is where it gets pretty interesting. Some of the models have huge variables, outcomes that are just all over the place. We'll get into that later. As we get closer. In fact, a long-range outlook will be coming out likely sometime over the next couple of days, so make sure you subscribe and come back if that interests you as we talk about what's left and some of the long-range signals we're seeing. This is a look at the GFS, okay? So it's different. The GFS has just performed, in my opinion, so poor lately, but I am going to show it. It takes this Clipper, if you will, and does something here on the coast and says we're going to get a little bit of coastal storm interaction here the first of next week. I'm not going to stop looking at it, but something to keep an eye on. And that northwest flow continues. Let's talk about the snow, though, further to the south and east. This is where, if you're tuning in today, you care about that snow picking up. Again, I think this is the NAM. I love the NAM when it comes to precipitation types. Some light snow falling across parts of Kentucky today. That snow will start to get heavier here as it moves into Virginia and West Virginia. I think, even though you may not be under advisories, you watch this part of Kentucky and Virginia and southern West Virginia for some snow. And then as that moves east, some of that snow banding could get kind of heavy here into central Virginia. So we'll see on that. Up towards D.C., it's going to be very, very difficult to get the snow up here. But there could be some snow that starts to pick up as we head into Friday morning. Could cause some problems, too, here. It doesn't take much snow. I've seen massive pileups with half an inch of snow that gets compacted at the right time, at the right temperature. And it might be falling at that point in time, too. And then this moves east. Now, down into North Carolina, I think if you get in really closely here, especially for places like Greensboro, back to Winston-Salem, some of this snow starting off as a little bit of rain, maybe switching to freezing rain, and then possibly ending as some snow here. I'm trying to pull up the map and get into North Carolina a little bit closer here. There we go. So up towards Mount Airy, I think it's mostly snow. You've got a pretty decent elevation change here. So I think you're all snow up here into Virginia along the Blue Ridge. But once you get down under the Piedmont, right? So we're talking about Winston-Salem. So Greensboro right here, the NAM has you starting off as rain. You get just a little bit to the west of Winston-Salem, it's snow, over to maybe some mix and then to rain. So it's a very tight gradient here. I think there's going to be a decent rip-off potential across this area where there's going to be snow and then just rain or plain rain or just barely anything. But once you get up into Virginia, that snow chance starts to increase, especially even along these counties here along the North Carolina-Virginia line, a decent chance of that snow. And then as it moves into the Tidewater, again, Virginia Beach here, Norfolk, Hampton Roads, look at this. The NAM tries to turn Hampton Roads over to snow. Don't let your guard down on this just yet if you are watching from Williamsburg along the peninsula. Richmond, I think we're all snow. You go north of that up to Charlottesville, all snow. And up into D.C., snow here as well. Into Maryland, though, the thing is, most of this precipitation will be just to your south. You can kind of see that, but there will be a chance of some accumulating snow. It doesn't look like a lot. D.C. here, Baltimore here, some of that trying to creep up into Baltimore and then into Delaware, to Dover, down the Delmarva, some snow. Even the eastern shore of Virginia could see some snow once you get a little bit further north here. And then into New Jersey, the extreme southern part of New Jersey, we might see a little bit of snow trying to mix in. And then that is pretty much history as we move into Friday evening and we're done. Here's a wider look at this, and we're going to let it go pretty quickly. We talked about what's going on in the mid-Atlantic. Some more snow, though, dropping in to the Great Lakes with that next system with some cold air, too, and that moves into Ontario. So a little more snow on the way here as we head into Saturday. Snow totals. This is the National Digital Forecast Database. Very unimpressive here if you look at this and go, gosh, what's going on? So, again, I think this might be underdone just a little bit. Some of the models may be a little heavy, but still, a couple of inches here showing up across Virginia. Up into D.C., the forecast is just for half an inch of snow. Maybe. I think you watch this area, that, especially here in Virginia, where there could be locally 2, 3, 4 inches of snow, only because some of the data is suggesting that. Again, a little bit of lighter snow back to the west across Texas and also Oklahoma today. We're talking about the Panhandle here, not into Dallas. And then further to the east, this is the new European run. All right, so let's get in tight here a little bit. Let's go into Virginia, also into the mid-Atlantic. Again, I showed you those half-inch totals. The European is pretty close up here towards D.C., but a little higher down here towards Richmond. It's trying to show some of that banding pickup. So something that I think we keep an eye on. But once you get north into Virginia, Winchester, seeing in the live chat, if you're joining the live stream, if you've missed these, you can always take it back. Or if you're just joining, you can go back and watch it at any time, or watch it now if you like. Across the west, the snow is going to pick up into the Wasatch, also the northern Rockies. Look at the snow here into the Wasatch. It could really start to pick up again, possibly more than a foot of snow, especially once you get up in elevations up near the ski areas, towards Park City, and then once you get into Colorado, more than a foot of snow too, into the highest elevations. Further to the north, that snow is going to be flying into Idaho and Montana, and it's going to get heavy over the next couple of days. Some areas, especially into the highest elevations here of Utah and Montana, 2 to 3 feet, especially above 6,000 feet. Big snow on the way across this part of the country over the next couple of days and into the next week or so. And it's going to continue to snow across British Columbia and Alberta. Look at this right now. This would take you through Saturday, maybe a little snow falling out towards Edmonton and Calgary. Back towards Vancouver, way too warm for snow, but up into the mountains, we're really going to start to pick it up. The Canadian Rockies, back here along the coastal ranges of British Columbia. I want to let this roll up because check these numbers out. Okay, this is really pushing it out towards the 12th and the 13th. Look at this, 129 inches. I can't even read this. 194 even showing up here in Washington into the Cascades, and several feet of snow into the Canadian Rockies and the northern Rockies of the U.S. And that puts snow too, not just up here into the Northwest Territories, but I mean, even into the prairies. I think there's just a lot of snow on the way with our pattern change that we're seeing. Let's zoom in a little closer here. We'll time some of this precip out, and we'll work our way across the country. There's the snow that's going to be falling as we head into Friday and also into Saturday. That starts to drop east as our clipper gets going here, but we're going to keep the snow going back here into the mountains with some snow showers. Bit of a break across Utah and Colorado, but more snow into the Pacific Northwest. It's going to be too warm for snow into Portland and Seattle, but get up into the Cascades. That snow could start to get heavy here as we head now into Tuesday and Wednesday, up into British Columbia, up into the Canadian Rockies, Banff, Lake Louise. Big snow here, not so much down towards Calgary and downwind of the mountains. You can see how it's all up into this region, and that continues Thursday, Friday, and this is when it just gets really active with this onshore flow, a lot of moisture moving in, and a lot of snow. There's a look at your temperatures today. Further east, there goes our light rain and light snow off to the east through Tennessee and Kentucky today. A little bit of light snow across the Dakotas, too, also into parts of Wisconsin and Minnesota, as another reinforcing shot of cold air starts to drop in. And here comes the heavier snow on Saturday, starting to streak east. That could put some snow into Nebraska, South Dakota. I don't know about Pierre if we see it, but definitely a chance of some snow. As this tries to slide to the east, it starts to weaken some, but there's going to be some snow, I think, along the southern Minnesota, Iowa border, maybe into Chicago again, too, on the way as we head into this weekend. And then that pushes east. Another cold blast of air moves in. A little bit of lake effect. It's going to be interesting to see this. Notice where this high is. The Europeans trying to put a band of lake effect snow into Chicago off of Lake Michigan. I don't know. And then we do it again with another clipper system and another one after that. Goodness gracious, look how cold it is today. These will be your highs, barely getting into the single digits and teens. Lows tonight in and near or below zero. Notice the whites showing up. That's what that indicates. And then as we head into tomorrow, maybe a little bit warmer, or at least we're into the 20s in some areas. Texas, a little cool here too. Highs in the 60s We're back into the 70s, though, across Texas and Louisiana as we head into Saturday. Another blast of cold air moves south, keeping your temperatures cold. Boy, that's going to be even colder maybe as we move toward the Great Lakes, moving through the weekend into the first part of next week. Further to the east, we've talked a lot about this, but there is going to be some snow showers also into the northeast. There comes that system through Virginia, West Virginia, into the mid-Atlantic. Again, not moving very far to the north into Pennsylvania and the rest of New Jersey into New York. There comes more snow. That weak system moving through southern Ontario, a little bit of rain across the south too, and that's really just going to linger here into southern Georgia and Florida. And there comes that next Clipper system to the west. Here's a look at your temperatures. Cold today, cold tonight into the northeast, well below zero into the interior areas with some fresh snow on the ground. Cold. A great start to ski season across the northeast. You cannot argue that. Plenty of snow on the ground here, and it's going to stick around too with highs heading into Friday, barely getting into the teens. And it's pretty cold too into the Ohio Valley. Highs in the 20s. A little bit warmer heading into Saturday. And Sunday maybe also a little bit warmer the further south you go, but staying cold across the Ohio Valley, Columbus, Indianapolis. Chilly here, and get ready. It's not going to warm up. Another cold blast on the way. Winter has started. If there were ever any question, I understand some of you may not be seeing the snow you want or whatever you say, but I want to go back and when things hit, they hit. And it's really, I don't want to say satisfying, but you go back and look and go, we're talking about the cold that was probably going to grip a lot of the central and northern and into the northeast as we head into December. We were looking at that around the 10th, the 11th, 12th, 13th of November, somewhere around there, maybe before that. And we saw that sudden stratospheric warming coming around Thanksgiving. It happened, and this is the cold, folks. Interesting thing is there's another sudden stratospheric warming anticipated, or at least it's showing up in the coming weeks. We may get a rebound in temperatures. I think there's more cold like this on the way. Winter's just getting started. Officially, winter hasn't started. Meteorological winter is here. Started December 1st, but the official start to winter still a few weeks away. But boy, it's starting strong. Could be a sign of a rough winter ahead. All right. That's all I got for now. See you next time.